Heritage, a great 2 weeks of golf focused right here in the Carolinas, Georgia area. A lot of fun. What'd you take from the 2 weeks of having the focus of the world of golf right here in our backyard?
We have it extremely special. The whole world is looking at there within an hour of us, within a couple hours. And as I travel around, and it's quite a privilege. It's not just a privilege to travel, by the way. Good evening, and this is a live report from San Antonio TPC. I'm out in Texas, and hey, but the whole world knows we've got it better than everywhere else. And one of the things that is, you and I've always done this. We've got it great right here in the Carolinas, specifically Columbia, South Carolina, and folks from all over the world just have us under a magnifying glass. But it was spectacular, and I got to. What I take away is, in this game, you can still dream. It doesn't matter if you're 75, 85 years old and dream about hitting a solid golf shot, or 15, 45, 55. You can dream in this game, Phil. It's worth it. So just tee it up, tee them high, and let them fly.
Let me touch on the leaderboard out your way real quick. Zach Johnson having a great tournament at 65 today. He's 9 under. He's tied with Ryan Moore. It is Andrew Landry at 8 under and Grayson Murray at 8 under. As far as some of the others that we like to follow here locally, and the cut is going to be +2. Ben Martin makes it at +1. Bill Haas makes it at +1. Unfortunately, Wesley Bryan does not at +2. Sergio doesn't make it at +2. Jonathan Bird at 2 over. Kyle Thompson +3. Scott Brown +7. McGirt +9. That place is playing really hard, is it not, George?
It is unbelievable. And I watched it on TV, and it just looks fun and easy on TV. But looks are deceiving. There's a lot of elevation, subtle breaks around the greens, and it's playing extremely difficult. Now, I like to do things a little different. There's a young man named Matt Atkins from Aiken that we're going to start following. He's playing extremely well. He's at -3, and he earned his privilege virtue the web.com last year, and he is a fine young fella. Comes right along on the heels of Kevin Kisner and Scott Brown. They play a lot of golf together, and he is fun to watch play golf. So, but this golf course, hey, they do it bigger and better in Texas. That's what they say anyhow. And I'll have to tell you, though, I went to a Spurs game last night.
Ooh.
And you probably already talked that basketball's probably over for you tonight, but I'll tell you right now, that NBA is a good ticket. It's a fun show.
Yeah,
it is. It is. I love it. It's one of my favorite cities in the entire United States, San Antonio.
Sure it is.
I wanted to touch on somebody who had a pretty good run in Hilton Head and is doing the same in San Antonio, and that's Chesson Hadley. This is a guy who hasn't necessarily been a household name, but is starting to creep up on leaderboards. He's currently 5 under for the tournament, 4 off the lead, and still on the course right now. How much have you noticed his game kind of shrinking here in the forefront?
Well, I watched Chesson when he was in junior golf. He's from North Carolina, went to Tech. He is a great player, and you're talking about somebody that is fun and has no fear, but his game is in form. He's got solid fundamentals. But he's a free spirit now, and he has fun playing the game. If he gets in contention, I'd be pulling for you. But Zach Johnson coming down the stretch, this is his kind of golf. I was always curious why he played so well here, and now I know. It's just extremely difficult, extremely deceiving, and I'll have to say I favor Zach coming down the stretch if it's close.
A quick football note I have to drop in here, George. You don't mind football intruding from time to time. Cornerback Sheridan Jones commits to Clemson out of Virginia. More on that coming up. So I look at my Twitter this morning, as much as I hate to, I have to, and I see the boys have been up to their little tricks again. I guess this was a new video that I saw on Twitter today of the trick shot artists doing their thing.
Yeah, and that's actually my son-in-law, William.
Okay, give us
William
the background. Have you seen this, Will? Look it up, Wesley. Look at the Brian. What's it under, George? Brian.
Brian Bros Golf, I think, is what it is. And
well, let me. You describe
Rainey,
it. You describe it. You can describe it better than I can.
Well, William Rainey, he's my brand new son-in-law. He married Mary Chandler on February 9th, and she is my youngest child and my favorite daughter. I only have one, so that's easy. But I love this. I love my new son-in-law, and apparently he snuck in, and I'm a little surprised to see it. But that video is in my backyard, where the what we do in our backyard is the creative and imaginative golf, and I enjoyed it myself. I saw it yesterday, first time, and by the way, William is going along with G4. They'll go to and another young fellow right in Columbia, Shaw James. They're going to go to the Mackenzie Tour qualifier next week. I'll be there. Hey, I'll be. I don't know how the sale works out, but I'll be in Canada next Friday night with a report from Vancouver, wherever that might be.
But how did they do that? How did they? For those who have seen it, maybe you got to take a look at it. How did they bounce the ball off those concrete slabs, for lack of a better term, and direct it into the cup? It's crazy.
Phil, you've got to sign up for the class, and it's $100,000 tuition to learn how to do that. www.g3.com. I don't know how they come up with. Hey, sometimes I think they have too much time on their hands. Real facts are they have a lot of fun with the creative and imaginative side, and I saw Wesley. I will tell you that Wesley was on number 11 yesterday at this at TPC Antonio, and his golf ball was bouncing around in the woods and the rocks a little bit like I saw George and Williams between the rocks and the trees. But yeah, I think it's something that a little bit like pool, and create and try to anticipate where you want your ball to go and where you want it to end up.
We only have about a minute left, George, but I just want to know, how much have you kind of seen what RBC has done here in South Carolina with that tournament? I think we're starting to see the influence of that, and I think you saw it reflected in the crowds last weekend.
Hey, Steve Wilmot, the whole community down there in Hilton Head, they get behind this event, and this event is known worldwide. The players love it. It's a player's favorite, and to me, it's put our great state on the map. And golf's such a great game anyway. And Hilton Head's always been a premier destination. But I'll tell you what, they do. The volunteers down there, I can't say enough about those folks. And Wilmot and John Farrell, the head pro there. I'll tell you what, Kerry Corbett, they do magnificent. So,
George?
Hey, I hear my music
next
week from Vancouver, Canada.
Look forward to it. See you. Don't forget, that's on the west side of Canada, so the time change there. Keep that in mind there, George. Have a good one, my man. We appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
All right, we are back with you once again here on Sports Talk. Thanks to George Bryan III for being with us. USC's taken a 1-0 lead on LSU thanks to a home run by Carlos Cortez. Clemson and Wake Forest. Wake Forest is up 5-4 in the bottom of the fourth. And let me wanted to update some other scores. I'll get to that in a moment. Sheridan.
Cortez finding the buried treasure, one would say. Hernan Cortez. No? Too much.
I think maybe you would say that. Nobody else would. Defensive back Sheridan Jones, 6'1", 165, commits to Clemson today. Ohio State, Virginia Tech, Alabama, Tennessee, Nebraska, and South Carolina, they were all on his short list at one point. He originally was going to be in the 2020 class, so he's a young guy. He reclassified for this season. That escalated his recruiting, and Clemson, as soon as he moved his graduation up, Clemson jumped in with an offer. He visited Clemson in January. He was also in for the spring game. And so he had told us earlier that he enjoyed meeting with Dabo Swinney, liked his perspective on things. And, of course, Brent Venables does a good job recruiting in that Hampton Roads area of Virginia. And that certainly was a bonus for Clemson as well. Alabama was involved with him, West Virginia, Penn State, and others. So this appears to be a very good pickup for Clemson in recruiting. Sheridan Jones, defensive back out of Virginia Beach, Virginia. All right. We had somebody write something to us that we want to talk about real quick.
You took some issue. I've already taken some issue with our friend Lawrence Calhoun, who is a fine tweeter apparently, and listens to the show a lot. I think he listens in the Low Country area. He says, please reassure Mr. Kornbluth that most Gamecock fans are sane. We knew this would be a tough season. That's why we wanted Holbrook canned to begin with. The roster is a mess.
So that's where I take exception.
I cede my time to you.
Yeah, I take exception to – I can't speak for Gamecock fans, okay? I can't speak for them in general. I can only go from what my presumption would be, just knowing the success of the program and what the fans now want. But you can't say this roster – in terms of its everyday lineup going into this season was a mess. The only position that was a question mark going in was first base in terms of not having a regular. You started out with Tolbert at second base. You had Stokes set to go at short. You had Bride back at third. All were multiple-year starters. All were heavily recruited, highly ranked players. Your outfield would have been Hopkins, who is back tonight, by the way. Did we mention that he's back?
I did mention that.
So Hopkins is back, Cortez in left, and Olsen in right. That is a highly touted, highly starred outfield if you go by what John Whittle has written, what Perfect Game says about these guys. And then Cullen behind the plate was one of the top catching prospects around in the country, especially in the Carolinas, when he signed. So, no, the everyday lineup look very, very good going into this season. Now, I know the injuries have been a problem. Now, the pitching, okay, I'll grant you that. That was a bit of a question mark outside of Adam Hill starting typically on Friday night. After that, it was going to be a question mark. Do I think Cody Morris was a proven performer coming into the season. He just hadn't been a regular starter. I think he's proven himself.
And he was coming off an injury as well.
And now you've got Logan Chapman going out there and doing some good work as that third starter. The bullpen has been a bit of a question mark from time to time.
Massive
and certainly
disappointment.
The midweek starting situation in pitching has been a question mark. But the closer, who became supposedly Eddie Demurius, was a guy with a good rep coming out of Florida who originally signed with Miami. So they've got players. I don't see the argument, and by the argument, and then you add Noah Campbell, thank you, to that lineup to lead off and play some second base or DH, whatever the case may be. You add him to that lineup. That's a good lineup. I don't buy the argument that they do not have talent, and fans looked at this roster and looked at that lineup in the preseason and said this is not going to be a very good team.
Well, I think the problem is that I think a lot of fans are seeing some of the same names with some of the same productivity as last year. They were expecting a progression, and we haven't seen that. Now, a lot of it, again, has been mired by the fact that there are injuries and they haven't been whole. You could argue that tonight is the first time they've really been whole since the SEC season started. So, I mean, this for the first time as we sit here on April the 20th. This is the first time since the beginning of the season, even since maybe the Clemson series, I would even go on to say, that they've looked basically what we thought they would look like, at least part and parcel.
Well, Hopkins hasn't played since the second game of the Florida series, the opening series of SEC play.
And Campbell has been gone for a while as well. So him at the top of the lineup has been missing. And you've been without Madison Stokes as well for the majority of the time as well. So much of what they have had has been, again, missing. And even Carlos Cortez, who hasn't been injured, just hasn't been producing. And I think a lot of it is because he's had no help and he's getting very bad pitches. So again, you're asking a lot of guys to kind of carry a load when they're not necessarily used to doing so. That obviously is a hard thing to come by in baseball terms. And now with all these guys together, you could at least look at that and say, okay, now we can judge them from this point moving forward.
All right, let's update some other baseball around the state, around the SEC and the ACC. We'll mesh them all together. Tennessee is leading Texas A&M 3-0. It's in the second. Auburn 1-0 on Alabama in the first. Pittsburgh, Miami scoreless early. And the Citadel trailing Wofford. Wofford's up 1-0 in the fourth. We've got Florida State leading Boston College 2-1 in the third. Presbyterian Gardner-Webb 2-2 in the fifth. Asheville Winthrop 1-1 in the fourth. Louisville leading Virginia 1-0 in the fourth. NC State 4-1 over Duke in the fourth. VMI leads Furman 1-0 in the fourth. Upstate 3-1 over Florida Gulf Coast in the third. Radford leading Charleston Southern 4-3 in the fourth. North Carolina 5-2 over Georgia Tech in the third. Georgia State 2-1 over Coastal Carolina in the fifth. And Virginia Tech leads Notre Dame 2-0. That is in the fourth.
Did you mention College Charleston?
I was going to ask for that.
7-1 is the final. The Pride over the Cougars.
That's not good. How about Coastal? I didn't see Coastal on my scoreboard.
Coastal 2-1 against Georgia State.
Okay. So you're up to date.
Georgia State leading Coastal Carolina. That game is in the top of the sixth inning.
Okay. So you're up to date on that. Let's see. A couple of other things I wanted to mention here while we've got a moment. We talked about that. Oh, Clemson women's basketball. Amanda Butler, the new head coach, announced her first hiring today. Shimmy Gray Miller, who worked with her at the University of Florida as an assistant coach and recruiting coordinator, going to join that staff.
Very well-known name in the women's basketball circles.
Never heard of her.
You're not very familiar with the women's basketball circles, but that's a very good hire for them. And again, this is about putting people who are well-known in the industry around Clemson and trying to restore the prominence that is in Clemson women's basketball. Again, you've been talking about all of the downfall from Jim Davis when he was there, and now you're trying to kind of resurrect some of that. Getting people like Shimmy Gray Miller in this program is going to help do that.
I just hope that they can give us something we can thank them for, and congratulate them for,
why you got to poke,
and we can thank them for everything at some point in time.
Why you got to poke?
Because I just think that's what we need to do. The Big South Men's Golf Championship being played at a beautiful golf course, Patriot Golf Club, the Patriot at Grand Harbor. That is a terrific golf course built around Lake Greenwood. I suggest it highly. Right now, Gardner Webb leads after 2 rounds at 3 over par. Charleston Southern would be 2 shots back, tied for second with Campbell at 5 over. Presbyterian is 7th at 14 over. Winthrop is in last at 20 over par. Anything you want to add to that?
I have nothing to add.
They use cannonballs as their tee markers, which is good from a look standpoint. But when you hit a bad tee shot and you get mad, you want to hit the tee marker with your golf club.
I can't.
The tee marker wins.
I can't add anything to Big South golf.
We'll be right back.
Leave the app, not your music. Listen
The latest on this weekend's race is around the corner. The full Monty on NASCAR is next. This is Sports Talk.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Time to go racing here on this Friday night as we welcome in Monty Dutton of MontyDutton.com for some NASCAR talk as he takes a break from writing another one of his fabulous novels, perhaps. And we've got the racing at Richmond under the lights tomorrow night. Martin Truex Jr. wins the pole, the Busch pole, at 123.859, followed by Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson finishing up at number 5. Let's go back to last week, though, the 24 hours of Bristol, as it took them a couple of days to complete it. But it was worth waiting on, Monty, because we had the great finish at Bristol with the bump and run at the very end. And nobody seemed to be too upset about it. I think that's the kind of play they expect at Bristol in that situation.
Yes, it's like Robert Duvall, as Harry Hogg said. He didn't wreck you, Cole. He rubbed you, and rubbing is racing. And on the short tracks, that's the way. And I think it's, it's when you wreck someone, when you're at a place like Bristol or Martinsville, and you just put someone on the wall, that's an act of destruction. But being able to get under them and nudge them up the line and slip by, that's really an act of great skill. And so I think it's marvelous.
And I want to brag on you because that's the first one you've called right all year.
You are exactly right. But although, it's hard to pick races. And plus, I think I told you before, when you're a sports writer, I didn't major in prophecy in college. I've been trained on telling people what already happened. I don't think I'm any better at predicting anything than anybody who just halfway follows it. And so that's my rationalization for my inability to prognosticate.
We had KT on for his segment on Tuesday. We were talking about race schedules, and they ran on Sunday afternoon to start at Bristol. The weather forced them to finish up on Monday, which is too bad because the place was practically empty in terms of fans. Yeah. Now Richmond, they're going to run tomorrow night under the lights, which should be great. And I suggested to KT, why don't they run all races on Saturday night so that you've got Sunday to catch up if you lose part of a race and fans can still hang around. He even threw the idea out at us, and I believe this is something that's being talked about, and maybe you've heard it, midweek racing coming to NASCAR, where some selected races in big markets might be run on like a, Tuesday night or Wednesday night?
Well, now that I'm not traveling the circuit, I am all for that. But if I was traveling the circuit, if they get too much of that, let me unplug my phone here. I forgot to do that for you, Kyle.
That's okay.
Now that I'm right at home in my living room, that is much more appealing to me. I used to, when they started talking a little bit about that when I was still traveling all over the place, and I used to think, well, who's going to wash my clothes? Who's going to cut my grass? But from a consumer's point of view, I think it would be a good midweek thing. But I hesitate. I feel like I'm a traitor to my profession by calling for that too loudly.
But when you think about it, on the weekends, NASCAR, especially in the fall, they're up against football. They're up against something, of course, all the time because the season is so long. But if you ran a race in a big market at night on like a Wednesday night,
Charlotte, something like that,
or I'm thinking like Chicago. I'm thinking of Dallas. We're playing. KT was saying you got to have a big population base where people don't have to drive very far. Atlanta, you could see where it would be the only big event going on. It might attract a large crowd.
It would have. I think it has to be done. It can't be done really often. Like for instance, what we were just talking about Saturday night. Well, you don't get anything on Saturday night. Probably in the South, you'd be worse off running on Saturday night than Sunday because in an area where college football is arguably more popular than pro football, it would be you can't do anything with the weekends in the fall. That's what the hard part of it is because the pro's on Sunday and college is at all hours of the day and night on Saturday. But I think, it has been wildly successful when they run that dirt track truck race at Eldora on a Wednesday night in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
And, once upon a time, this was the case. When I was a boy, the Grand National, then precursor to Cup, they used to always, twice a year, run Thursday night at Columbia Speedway and Saturday at Greenville Pickens. And they would have two small races instead of one super speedway. They wouldn't have that on a week when there was something like the World 600 or something. But I think that there is some applicability to that, and I also think that I think they'd run it in Taiwan at Tuesday at 4 a.m. if they would get people, because something has to be done to stem the decline. Because I really thought I have to say, I felt really sad that there was such a good race at Bristol, and all the people would thought Bristol's not like it used to be. That race last weekend was exactly the way it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate they want more people to watch.
Sure.
Or watch it on TV.
Yeah.
Why has Kyle Larson been such a bridesmaid this year, but never a bride?
I don't know, because he is the type, you would think that was his last thing, because he's a very aggressive and talented young driver. He is the closest approximation among younger to Kyle Busch in terms of talent, the ability to car control on a race car. And I think that it's somewhat unusual that so many times, people use the opposite. Like, for instance, people call Kevin Harvick the closer. But Kevin Harvick finishes second a lot more than he wins. And so it's almost like it's we finish second too many times. I know what we'll do. We'll give you a slogan and say, yeah, who wins all those races? And so I think it's hard to figure, because that shouldn't be, Kyle Larson is an impetuous driver who you would think that he would either win or get in a wreck and finish 18th. And so I think it's probably just one of those things that are leaving out in time. And it's probably he's getting better and more experienced at a rapid rate. And this is probably just a case of a guy who, he's getting more mature and he's got the talent, but he has to develop the maturity. That doesn't, you could argue that Kyle Busch is going to act like a teenager when he's 57. But the fact is, as a race car driver, he's a lot smarter than he used to be. So this is probably just something that time will take care of. And it's probably it's the same way that Chase Elliott has done everything but win. He'll get the hang of it. He'll start winning at some point.
All right, Monty,
he won't be there.
Got about a minute or so, minute and a half. I see where Dale Jr. and Kyle Busch sat down for a podcast to revisit their rivalry and some of the things between them from their racing career. Would you have ever imagined in 2007 when Hendrick brought in Jr. and let Busch go, and Busch landed in the 18 car for Gibbs and has gone on to have he's on his way to a Hall of Fame career, many more wins than Jr. Could you have foreseen that?
No, but I think at the time, what happened was, Rick Hendrick made that decision on money, not on success. At that time, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was money in the bank, most popular, easy to get sponsorship for. It reminds me of what Junior Johnson used to get criticized for the time he had Terry Labonte, and I remember talking with Junior, and Junior saying everybody used to say that I made a big mistake. Terry didn't ever tear anything up. And he said, I made more money off Terry Labonte than anybody ever drove for me. And then in that slow thing, Junior said, so maybe I ain't so dumb after all. And so I think that's an aspect of it. But I also think that that's probably something that Rick Hendrick not express with his great history as car owner is repeated, because I think that you get right down to it. It comes down to wins, and and he squandered a great talent there.
All right, 15 seconds. Who wins at Richmond?
I was gonna say I think that it's time for a Chevrolet. I think Chase Elliott's fast, and my God, how many times have I picked him to win and been wrong? But he's just, you don't want me to pick the guy everybody else does. That's one of the reasons I don't ever get the damn things right. So I'm going to pick Chase Elliott this week in a Chevrolet, a Camaro.
Thank you, Monty. We appreciate it. The full Monty on NASCAR. Hey, we got Sheridan Jones coming up next.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Hey, be sure to check out FoundersFCU.com. Learn how they can assist you in all of your financial needs. A couple of quick updates. Clemson and Wake Forest, 5-5 top of the sixth. USC 1, LSU nothing, bottom of the third.
Coastal and Georgia State are now tied at 2 in the top of the seventh at Springbrook Stadium.
All right, ACC Men's Golf Championship underway, and Georgia Tech leads at 12 under. Notre Dame is minus 11. Clemson is minus 9. Doc Redman, fresh off his run through the PGA Tour, shoots a 67 today to lead the Tigers. They're only 3 back. Next gentleman we're going to be talking to is not going to help the Clemson golf team, we don't think, unless he picks up the sticks from time to time, but he does plan to help the Tiger secondary in 2019. Is Sheridan Jones out of Virginia Beach, Virginia, announced a commitment today, just a little while ago, to the Clemson Tigers, and he joins us live here on Sports Talk. Good evening, Sheridan. How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
We're great. We're great. Congratulations. Thank you for joining us tonight here on our program across the state of South Carolina. You got Clemson fans and Gamecock fans listening to you. So you had a lot of great schools to choose from. How did it turn out to be Clemson for you?
Clemson has always been a little bit ahead of everybody since they offered me. And Clemson is just the best of both worlds to me. Great academics, athletics. And being with their needed DBs, it felt like just a perfect place for me.
You were there for the spring game, and you were there earlier this year. What things did you see in the program around the school that impressed you the most?
I got to see great facilities, great dorms, great coaching staff, just a great team overall. And I got to see how the guys went at it, how the coaches coached in practice, and then in a game-like situation at the spring game.
Give us a sense of who hosted you and what the interaction was like with the players, and who did you interact with the most, and who spoke with you the most?
I actually did my commitment before the spring game in the office with Coach Sweeney, Coach Venables. And as soon as I told them, they were really excited. He tackled me on the couch, and it was a lot of love just in that room, hugging. Coach Sweeney, Coach Venables was slapping my back out of excitement. And I got to talk to a couple of Virginia guys, Jordan Williams and Kayvon Wallace. They was just telling me that Clemson is one of the, if not the best school in the nation, and why it's home for them and why it should be home for me.
How'd you keep it quiet all week?
I told everybody I was dropping the top 3.
And they believed you?
Yeah.
I never did. I knew something was coming from you tonight. Now, tell us about you as a player. What makes you such a highly coveted guy? I mean, you had Clemson, South Carolina, Ohio State, Virginia Tech, Alabama, Tennessee, Nebraska kind of on your short list there when you decided to move up and graduate this year, or graduate in the 2019 class, I should say. What makes you such a highly coveted corner?
I have great size, very lanky defensive back. I'm aggressive and have great speed and technique to go with it. And I just love to make plays on the ball. And I can come down for run support when needed. Just all-around football player.
They feel like do they get specific with you in terms of, which corner spot they want to use you at, or maybe in the nickel? What are their plans for you when you arrive?
I'll be going mid-year. So they didn't actually tell me like what position, but Coach Reed tells me he's definitely going to throw me in the fire early, and he's going to see what I'm about.
Yeah, they're going to need some corners after this year because they lose some people. Now, why did you make the decision to move from the 2020 class to the 2019 class?
I only needed 2 more classes to graduate, and honestly, I was ready to go to the next level, finish up with high school, and make things happen.
So how old are you?
I'm 17.
17, okay.
You're gonna miss anything like senior prom and stuff like that from school. You're not gonna be missing any of that.
No, I actually get to come back to walk across the stage and go to prom.
Very good. So this shuts it down for you. You're done with recruiting?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you finish with last year in terms of your tackles, interceptions? Any notable stats that you can share with us?
I know I had 2 interceptions, one to the house. Probably like 30-something tackles, and also played some receiver, 300, 400 yards receiving, a couple touchdowns.
I was going to ask you if do you have anything special teams wise as far as a return game possibly that you could be bringing to the table?
Yeah, I plan to play some kick return if they allow me to.
Do you model yourself? Excuse me. Do you model yourself as a cornerback after anybody else on the collegiate level, or maybe from the NFL now or in the past?
In the NFL, I know I like guys like Richard Sherman and Jalen Ramsey. Definitely 2 great DBs, one young, one that's been in the game for a while now. But guys that know the game, and Jalen Ramsey is definitely one that has fun with the game, and I like to have fun on the field.
Sounds to me like you don't mind getting up in a receiver's grill and maybe exchanging a little trash talk with him?
Yes, sir.
You play those mind games? You try to get inside their head?
Yes.
Are you good at it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Very good. Well, congratulations, and thank you for joining us here on Sports Talk. Good luck to you the rest of the spring and summer. And we'll be, of course, watching you and following you during your senior year. Look forward to following your career at Clemson as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sheridan Jones committing to Clemson. That's another. What can you say about Clemson recruiting? They just stockpile great player after great player in terms of their high school reputation. That's 3 defensive backs in the class: Joseph Charleston, Landon Zanders, and now a Sheridan Jones. They've got the linebacker Brighton Constantine, the quarterback Pumachan, running back Ches Malusi, the tight end Jalen Lay, 2 receivers Brandon Spector and Frank Ladson, and a punter in Aiden Swanson.
You know, we were talking earlier on SC Wild about proficiency in angling. Dabo Sweeney's a pretty darn good fisherman when it comes down to how many lines he casts out and how many actually bite.
It's amazing.
It's
amazing.
It's quite a thing for them.
I mean, I tell people all the time who question me about their success. I mean,
who questions their success
in recruiting?
Who questions it?
Well,
can you be honest?
A lot on the other side, and a lot of rivals do. But look at what they're selling right now. I mean, they've got great facilities. They're winning. They got a tremendous academic background they can sell you. They have got
a slide.
They got that. But in all seriousness, they got a very strong religious selling point within their program, within their coaching staff, and that resonates well with a lot of people, and it helps them. Not saying they use that. I'm saying that's what they live, and that resonates well with a lot of people.
Religious as far as faith-based, or religious as far as how Clemson people feel about their football program?
Well, I'd say both.
Well, I was going to say,
I'd say both.
That's kind of that has a double meaning there when you say religious.
But my point is, let's face it, with a lot of families today that are college football families that go on these visits, and they sit in Dabo's office, or they sit in Venable's office, or Jeff Scott's office, and they see what they see and hear what they hear, and that resonates well with them. So if you're looking for that kind of environment, then Clemson is a great fit. And if you're Urban Meyer right now, you just got to be wondering, what do I have to do to beat these guys on the field and in recruiting?
As I've always said with Dabo Sweeney since I've been here, he's good at 3 things. He's a master motivator. He hires great people around him and his staff, and he is great in the room with recruits. And he knows how to get people he wants to come to Clemson.
So another big pickup for the Tigers in Sheridan Jones. You heard it here on Sports Talk in terms of his first interview here in the state, I would think. And if you missed it, we'll have it up on our website in a little bit.
I say it's hard to have been sooner than us.
Wake and Clemson, they're 5-5. Bottom of the 6, USC and LSU. Is it going to hold up for the Gamecocks? They lead it 1-0.
We'll see. The pitching's got to hold up. We got to see how the bullpen goes.
This is 3 straight games. You go back to the last. Well, actually, all 3 games at Arkansas, and now this one, they have gotten some great pitching to this point.
We need to get the bats going.
Well, have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you for being with us. We'll be back with you on Monday night. Thank you, Will, and thank you, Brian. We'll see you from here on Sports Talk. Yeah. You mean the kid?
Yeah.
I watched the Grateful Eight again the other night. I just love the scenes. I love the parts where he punches her in the mouth when she says something. Yeah. He just goes, yeah. I spat on it. Bam. Who is the woman?
I don't know.
She is funny as hell.
Yeah. I don't know.
And when you get to Red Rock, it's gonna be 13 Doomians waiting for you. Whatever. Doomian gang. Shut the fuck up. There's not gonna be any guy. I mean, he is so funny in the way it was his profanity and the way he was talking in that thing. All of them. The guy who was playing the sheriff to be was funny as heck.
Like all of them were in their own movie.
Yeah.
Always take it to a different part.
Exactly. And the way they did it, with chapter, and they moved you ahead, then they took you back. Yeah. Moved you ahead and took you back. Let me text my wife here real quick. I've been very good at doing that here of late. To write a commitment story real quick. I've had this little bug here for 2 days. How about I stop by Trader and pick up ox and bagel. Okay. Sheridan Jones just gave me something to lead off with. I guess I should have asked him who it came down to. I just assumed. I think it came down to Clemson and Ohio State. All right, here we go. Coming down. Make sure that's number 10 for Clemson. Yep, that's number 10. Coming down in 3, 2. Coming down in 3, 2, 1. Clemson picked up another prized recruit on Friday night with a commitment from defensive back Sheridan Jones out of Virginia Beach, Virginia. He is regarded as one of the top cornerback prospects in the country. He picked the Tigers over Ohio State. He would have been in the 2020 class, but he reclassified for Kids Clear. God, I was on a roll, Brian. I was butter. I was butter. I was on a roll. In 3, 2, 1. Clemson picked up another prize recruit for the 2019 class on Friday night with a commitment from defensive back Sheridan Jones of Virginia Beach, Virginia. He is regarded as one of the top cornerback prospects in the country. He was going to be in the 2020 class, but then reclassified for 2019. He picked the Tigers over Ohio State. Clemson also leads for defensive back Shaheem Battle of Rocky Mount, North Carolina. He was at the spring game last weekend. The Tigers have put themselves in the lead for him at this particular point ahead of NC State. He was at Tennessee for its spring game over the weekend. USC recently offered wide receiver TJ Jones of Lake City, Florida, and it crap. All right, we'll pick it up here. USC recently offered wide receiver TJ Jones of Lake City, Florida, and the two are just starting to build their relationship. He does plan to visit the Gamecocks at some point. Phil Kornblut, South Carolina Radio Network Sports. See if you can make that happen.